All is existence. I am existence. Rahubat Moisar, by way of the higher beings, Pa Morzaku, the Riskians, Pa Mosahu, the Iranians, Pa Musbatu, the Syrians, Pa Munazaru, ones who are of the overseers, Wu Baba Yananan, Galactical Master, Pana Baba Yananan, send greetings to us all with a shuk, divine unconditional love. I am Haptwi Re Atamhata, one of the many student teachers of the master teacher, Pana Baba Yananan, affectionately known to us as Baba Yanun, an Etherean, an avatar, or in Arabic the word they use is Ilam Tajasud, a divine being in human form, in the personage of His Excellency Dr. Malachi Z.K. York Okran, 33 degrees over 720 degrees. I'd like to say wonderful welcome to you all on Clubhouse, on Zoom, and here in the store, in the flesh, at Nashat, 101 Church Street, Croydon. And today's class is entitled The Next Stage to Divinity is That of a Quantum Existing Being. So today's class is entitled, say that once again, The Next Stage to Divinity is That of a Quantum Existing Being. Why did Pa Nabab Yananan say this? And you can hear him say this on a class, it's on YouTube, it's called, actually one or two classes, How to Prove the Existence of the Most High, or it could be in another class, which is a continuation of that class, called Class in the Temple of I Am Hotep. But Class in the Temple of I Am Hotep, Dr. Malachi Z.K. York or Dr. York will come up. Those were very, very good classes. So, before we start class, before we start the subject matter, I just want to read something here. To you. I got this from one of the brothers. He got a manual on how to be a PI, private investigator, many years ago. Every now and then we'd read this. And it's got here, finding the facts. Facts are actual, tangible things. They are indisputable and incontestable. If something can be contested or disputed, then simply put, it is not really a fact. Facts are not hearsay, rumor, conjecture, assumption, or anything else. Facts exist as they are and cannot be denied. We often hear something along the lines that a fact is being disputed or challenged. It is almost certain that if the fact is solidly entrenched in the chain of evidence, it can really be quashed. A fact is the truth. Obtaining facts is the primary goal of the investigative process. They either exist or they do not. Hunting down the facts may be easy or challenging. It all depends on their accessibility. Factual evidence can be hidden, destroyed, or buried to prevent discovery. And this is the challenge faced by the investigator. Now, we often say that, people say, what is Wu-Sabat? Wu-Sabat is our spiritual science and universal knowledge, and is based upon the science of facts and reality. And that is just little, basically the epitome of what facts is and is not. Okay. Now, before we start class, I just want to read on something that a question that was asked last time he was here. And the question basically was about Yahweh. Who is Yahweh? Who or what is Yahweh? And I like to give a greater build on this Yahweh. And it's very interesting. And the two scrolls we'll be referencing will be a scroll called The Beginning, questions of Dr. Malachi Z. Kayok about the beginning. If you can see that. And be reading, this is reading from page 120, and also the Black Book, or the Sacred Records of Atumbre, reading from page 114. So before we start, so let me say, question was asked about Yahweh. And this word Yahweh, you see this as Yahuwah. And that word Yahuwah basically translates as Yah is O and Hua is he. So Yahuwah would be O he, who he is. Who he. I hear the word who he. It's inside the word O he, who he. O he who he is. And that is his existence. I may say when you take out the vowels from the Yahweh, you're left with the Yod, the Hebrew, the Hey, the Waw, and the Hey again. And we said that the Y is an I sound or E sound. The Hey is a H. The W is just that, a W, or two U's, and we got the H again, the Ha. So reading from left to right, you get Ihu. And if we read it from right to left, because in the Hebrew and in the Arabic, it's written, you read it from right to left. I read it from the right to left. You read Ihu from right to left, I-H-U-H, you get Hu-He. And Hu-He is one of the creative forces of will that constantly accompanies Reye. I just want to build on that even further. We go to this scroll called The Beginning. I read from page 120. And its question is, who or what is who? Answer. In Egypt, Hu-He, which is who or Hua, was considered the personification of utterance or tone, with which the creator Ptah was regarded as creator of the physical world and deity of technology, does his work. Who was the utterance or tone, the vibration and pulsation of existence, and that which comes to existence within the sacred breath. Those things made that manifest within creation. True growth. That's what creation is. Creation basically is growth, not just something coming to being. It pertains to growth. And before there is creation, there is a state of existence. And before existence, there is another state which is referred to as pre-existence. That state of pre-existence is mental. So in the Black Book, let me just quickly, I wanted to read page 114, but I just want to quickly jump to find that page. There it is. If we go to the Black Book and we read on page 256, it states, scroll 3, the signs for the circle and square, 19 times 5 equals 95. And it says this, 1, in order to create something, the Netiru, well, also known as the Netiru, the ancient ones, headed by a group of ray called Atumre, Atunre, Amunre, created a state of nothingness in which to place the 99 elements or attributes of this state by Hua, the eternal, or things on this side of H1. I'll read that again. In order to create something, this is physical, the Netiru, the ancient ones, headed by a group of Rei called Atumre, Atunre, Amunre, created a state of nothingness. Excuse me. Created a state of nothingness in which to place the 99 elements or attributes of this state by who he, the eternal, or things on this side of H1. That means that this group of rays were in a state of pre-existence and created a state of nothingness, which is the etheric realm, in order to create the physical realm. You get that? By who he, the eternal, or things on this side of H1 hydrogen. We'll stop there. So that's explaining those states. So earlier on this afternoon, I was walking down Croydon and the Christian guy stopped me. And I asked him that question. I said to him that before creation, there's existence. And before there's existence, there's pre-existence. Then he went on to say, because I said that, he then went on to say that, Jesus and God were in a state of pre-existence. When I said to him, well, what state is pre-existence? And obviously he couldn't answer. He only said it because I said it. So, but that state of pre-existence is mental. So these higher beings, or Natharu or Netiru, are in a state of pre-existence. I'm going to go into that in it as we proceed on the class. So this all I'm doing right now is giving you a build on this Yahweh, Hu or Hua. So I'll read that bit again. This is going back to the beginning scroll. The Hu or what is who? Who in Egypt, who he, which is who or Hua, or he who he is, was considered a personification of utterance or tone with which the creator, Ptah, who is regarded as creator of the physical world and deity of technology, does its work. Who was the utterance or tone, the vibration and pulsation of existence, and that which comes into existence within the sacred breath. Those things made that manifest within creation. True growth. Who is that tone from which the creator, Ptah, calls things into being, to existence, with Hika and Sia? Who is one of the creative forces of will that constantly accompanies Ra, the sun deity, the source of life, the sustainer of life, the provider of sustenance in this world, the eternal. So all sound has its birth in these three sounds, Ta, Tu, Ti, or Ha, Hu, Hi, then Dunun. You get your second sounds, Han, Hun, Hin. Now you have all the sounds, Ha, Hu, Hi, Han, Hun, Hin. Also got Ta, Tu, Ti, and Tan, Tun, Tin. Okay, so in order for creation to come about, it came by way of sounds, and sounds are caused by the effects of two or more things colliding, thus creating friction or heat. And what is this sound? Let me go back. So what sound did it make? This is going back to page 117. It reads, this is now talking about the Big Bang. The bang, or the bangs, created a vibration, a friction to heat that results in sound. Each additional bang, because there are many big bangs, each additional bang had a different time and distance and magnitude that created a harmony of music heard by the true listener of or Om as Amun, the Amen. It vibrates at the rate of 144 and is the letter D of the first center C octave bass. Its color is green. I just want to stop there. Now, with that bear in mind, I just want to read from the Black Book. And we have to, we're reading the Black Book, you have to read it really closely. And it reads, those things, it's like a continuation from what's read in the beginning scroll, but it's a bit more, it's a greater build. Those things that manifest within creation, true growth, who is that tone from which the creator calls things into being with Hika and Sia, the original triad of Ptah, Hika and Sia. Who he is one of the creative forces of will that constantly accompanies Re, Ra, the sun deity, the source of life, the sustainer of life, the provider of sustenance in this world, the eternal. I don't know if you'll quote that, what the master wrote here. It's got here, the original triad of Ptah, Hika and Sia. And goes on to say, who he, so there's a triad, who he, Hika and Sia. And these are the original triad of Ptah. Now, here it is. This is how Partner Babylon has written this. Who he is one of the creative forces of will that constantly accompanies Re Ra, the sun deity, the source of life, the sustainer of life, the provider of sustenance in this world, the eternal. He's saying that Ptah is a Reye. You hear that? That's how you've written it. Ptah is a Reye. This highest triad is the triangle with the eye of Re in the center. And these 3 points of the triangle represent Atum, the undifferentiated one in the creation. The full disk appearance of the sun in the morning. Atun, the unique one in life. The full disk, the full sun disk at the highest point of the day. Amun, the hidden one at death, sun at its last full disk before setting and making it through the underworld or netherworld. So we have, when the sun appears to rise, we have Atum, before we start that. So you've got a triangle. You have Atum Re, when the sun appears to rise, so it'd be like that. When the sun appears to rise, which we call dawn, Atum Re. When the sun is at its midpoint or zenith, it's called Atun Re. And when the sun appears to set, it's called Amun Re. It's got here Amun, the hidden one at death, sun at its last full disk before setting, making it through the underworld or netherworld. So there's another point here, but the master doesn't mention it. Until later on in his studies, you find that this point, this sun here, is called Anun Re, referred to as the as continual existence. And that's what I could think of Anun Re. So you got Amun Re, then you have Atum Re, but there's this the black sun referred to as Amun Re. Okay. These are the sacred names of the 3 sons, Samash, Afsu, and Utu of Sumeria. And Hu-Hi, Hua is the etheric counterparts of the netherworld. These beings once dwelled in this realm. Now they are guiding forces and controlling forces from beyond this world, working as the involuntary to the voluntary in the human body. So our involuntary systems is controlled by higher forces, or okay, such as Huhi, Hika, and Sia. It goes on to say, Hika is an anthropomorphic personification of miracles, magic, and the manipulation of elements and chemicals of nature, which is another term for that is alchemy. That's Hika. Hika is one of the two constant companions of Re, the other means Sia. Question, what is Sia? Sia is the personification of perception, shape, form, pattern, who work together in Huhi with Hika and makes the world of created things possible. So when we have something in our minds and we want for it to materialize, these is the forces of Sia that is the force that helps to bring that into being. So Hika, so Huhi, Hika, and Sia are a triad principle of godship, the Nitiru, responsible for the constant and perpetual pattern of that which manifests in that which is created and made. And that tone or utterance is Om, which later was rendered as Kun, as in existence or being. That's basically just a more in-depth breakdown of what they call Yahweh, which they grafted from the word Yahuwah, which came from the word Huhi. Okay. And these are higher forces or etheric forces that are what we refer to as are in a state of pre-existence, which is really basically what today's class is all about. So I hope I didn't lose anybody. Did anybody get that? No, quiet at the moment. Okay. So today's class, as you said before, is entitled the next level to divinity is that of a quantum existing being. And as usual, I would like to ask the question, what is meant? Does anybody know what is meant by a quantum existing being? Don't be shy, fam.
Do you mean, oh, roundabout? Roundabout. So do you mean someone who can exist multi-dimensionally? Is that what you mean when you ask that question?
Exactly. You're on the right track there, Samuel. That's right. Say that again, Samuel.
Sure. So what you were saying about sorry, you know what? You're gonna have to remind me of your question, then I'll reply.
Yeah. What's meant by a quantum existing being? You got it right. I just want to hear you say it again. I'll go into it a bit more.
Yeah, so quantum existing being, I think because what it is with like quantum, when you mention quantum to me, what comes to mind is existing in many different places at once, being able to split, because it's the splitting of an atom, right? So the atom can exist in two places at one time. So yeah, instantly that just makes me think about being in like multi sorry, what's the word? What I'm trying to say? Being in multi-dimensional, being in many different places at once.
Right. In actuality, you are 100% right. Maurice, you're 100% right. A quantum existing being, and this is, when we say being in many different places at the same time, they call that superposition. When we talk about quantum or quantum mechanics, what we're actually saying is, quantum mechanics, let's first say it like this. Quantum mechanics is the study of how things behave at the atomic and subatomic level, if you had to put it in a definition. But quantum mechanics takes what we refer to as classical physics to the next level. Quantum mechanics is the scientific study or aspects of spirituality. So spirituality is not just praying to some unseen deity or nothingness. It's quantum mechanics explains how things occur at a subatomic, or what we call the etheric state. Now, when Parnababiananda says the next level to divinity is that of a quantum existing being, he's talking about how we exist on that level beyond the physical realm, and how it ties in to not only being in multiple places at the same time, which is called superposition, but also how we can affect what's referred to as time as well. And they call that affecting time, they call it time reversal symmetry. And also how time reversal symmetry is another way of saying past, present, and future exist simultaneously. The master teacher put it like this: the past is still happening and the future has already happened. So time was, is, and shall always be. Now the trick and the trap is time itself, which is only relative to this, how time is how we calibrate time is incorrect, especially the calendar system that we ascribe to is incorrect, or it's an illusion. It throws us off. Now, what we mean by that is, like, let's take here in the UK, they turn the clocks forward and they turn the clocks back. When they turn the clocks forward, they say, oh, you've gained an extra hour in bed. When they turn the clocks back, they say, oh, you lose an extra hour. So if they turn the clocks forward, does that mean then that we have 25 hours in a day? When they turn the clocks back, does that mean that we have 23 hours in a day? Or is it just one big illusion to mess our minds up, so we don't know what day time that we're in? And a question was asked on the OSM website about the same thing. Someone asked a question about how is it that time seems to be speeded up? And what is actually happening is, I don't know if you ever had that feeling, time seems to be speeded up, but the master says time is speeding up. And the reason why time is speeding up is because we are going into what's referred to as a dimensional shift. The planet is now moving up to the next dimension, to the fourth dimension and beyond. And because of that's happening, because of time seems to be speeded up, that means that we have to recalibrate this time frame that we ascribe to. Now, that means that there's got to be a shift in our mentality, or in our mental, how we process time. And the question was asked, how can we elongate time And the way to elongate your day, what we need to do is wake up early. The earlier we wake up, the more things we can get done. Now, another process also is our eyes and what we see in our eyes, because everybody is rushing, especially the two times I know people rush is in the morning. You're driving, they had to get to work for 7 o'clock. So by about 6:45, you're on the road. People are driving fast because they have to get to work, or people always move doing things quickly to get things done. And because of that, how our eyes perceive movement is so rapid that we are actually speeding up the time, that process of time by the images that's coming at our eyes at a rapid pace. Now, the question that asks is now, how can we combat that, or how can we alleviate that process? And the way to do that is by fasting, meditation, visualization, concentration, chanting, all those spiritual works. My teacher calls it our spiritual aerobics. These are ways of slowing down our thought processes, or so that we no longer, even though images are coming to our eyes at a rapid pace, we are slowing down that process. We are now controlling that process just by way of our perception. When we say perception, this is what we mean. We have our 5 senses: see, hear, taste, touch, and smell. And those 5 senses all narrow down to touch. And touch itself narrows all the way down to perception, how we perceive things. And each and every one of us has different levels of perception. When we say perception, we're talking about consciousness or our awareness. The greater our awareness, or the greater our consciousness or awareness, the greater our perception, or our perception, how we perceive things, becomes expanded, as in the all expanding. So we just have to slow down our thought processes, okay, or be in control of our thought processes, okay? So Zamal, when you said the statement that we talk about quantum existing being, and you said that it's about us having the ability to be in multiple places at the same time, that's called superposition. And that superposition basically means what they found out is, but they cannot quantify it, is that you as a human being, not only are you here physically, but you are in multiple locations at the same time. And that not only in the 3-dimensional world, but also in other dimensional worlds at the same time. The only thing is that we do not have the switch to switch on to give us the ability and capability to have conscious awareness of those other realms. One gland that we always mention that is the master gland for that is the barotheric gland. And the barotheric gland is that gland that gives us what we call our higher senses: intuition, clairvoyance, mental telepathy, and psychometry. But our 5 senses, see, hear, taste, touch, and smell, that also becomes heightened. And we also teach that along with the barotheric gland, we have the introduction of what's referred to as supreme melanin. And supreme melanin is what helps to activate all those higher senses within inside of us. Apart from all that, we've also got guardians of the gateways There are guardians that guard those higher realms. That in order for us to access those realms, we've got to be found worthy, tried, and tested before we can enter those higher ethereal states of existence. Okay? So the master says that those of us that may have the barytheric gland inside of us, but it could be in a dormant state, just asleep. Just how he talks about in the Black Book, how our feminized Parvanas tussle, they have a gland inside of them called the Bartholin gland that gives them the ability to produce a child without the aid of a male, but that gland is redundant or is being maimed. However, with this daytime and cycle that we're in, those glands that are dormant will be reactivated for the elite few. That's in the scrolls. Okay. So now, when we say, I'm going to read something here. When Baba Yananan mentioned that Wu-Sabat is our spiritual science and universal knowledge, the science he is referring to is quantum mechanics, the quantum field and reality. And the question is, what is quantum mechanics? Answer: quantum mechanics is the study of how things behave at the atomic and subatomic levels, explaining phenomena like wave-particle duality, quantum entanglement, superposition, and time reversal symmetry. Time reversal symmetry, as we said, is that ability for us to affect past, present, and future. They acknowledge that time is not linear, in us, through us, and around us. And when we talk, we said that when we talk about superposition, being at multiple places at the same time, quantum entanglement basically means we are all aligned with each other. Not only are we aligned with each other, but we also align with our Muslafu ancestors and Parnatharu, those the higher beings. Quantum entanglement, when they say that, they realize that the scientists, after studying quantum entanglement, they realize that what we do on the physical has an effect on the spiritual or non-physical or the etheric realms, for lack of a better word. They know this science and how we are all interlinked. Now, when we say all interlinked, what we mean is that by way of quantum entanglement, when you talk about the process like mental telepathy is another form of quantum entanglement, meaning that when we to communicate telepathically, we have aligned ourselves with the person who we want to communicate with, and that is the process. Mental telepathy. We are mentally in alignment with that other individual or individuals. It's called quantum entanglement. And we use another word here, which is called wave-particle duality, which is another science. And wave-particle duality basically means that when you talk about a wave can behave like a particle or like an electron or a pattern, and a pattern or an electron, a particle, can behave like a wave. They're called wave-particle duality. That basically means that our consciousness can affect the physical realm just by way of thought, which is We go into that later on. Okay. We explain superposition. I just want to read something. Any questions thus far, fam?
Yes, I got a question. Rahubat.
Rahobat, is that Stephen? Go ahead, Zamal.
What does Wu-Sabat say about a female, yeah, that's never been with a man, or a man that's never been with a female?
How do you mean, what does Wu-Sabat?
Okay, say a female, yeah, that's never had a husband or a partner, a male partner.
Okay.
And so like a man, yeah, that's never had a wife or
Okay.
a female partner. What does Wu-Sabat say about that?
Uh, oh, we don't. In what respects? As it's a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah, is it a bad thing
No, it's
in
not.
Wu-Sabat?
No, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. No, definitely not. Um, that's a very good question. Also, because the reason why we say that is because not everybody has come down to this earth plane for a partner. However, in saying that, it is said that self-realization doesn't come about a way of isolation, but way of relationship, how we relate to each other.
Yes.
And some people may not want to have a partner, but they do have, let's say, platonic friends, for lack of a better word. So we do not, it's not a good we're not saying it's a bad thing. That's because good and bad is really a matter of perspective. So in Wu-Sabat, we do not say that it's a good thing. We don't say it's a bad thing. We just say it's up to the individual's choice. Let's see. Okay.
Okay then.
Okay.
So in Wu-Sabat, if somebody is shy by nature,
Yeah.
what does Wu-Sabat say about that?
Okay. When if a person is shy by nature, there's, you see, nothing is really clear cut. It could be that shyness could be a cloak or a defense for that individual as they're growing in life. And as they're growing, their experiences, they begin to develop within inside of themselves. So shyness is not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. It's just one of those processes of emotion that a person goes through in their life. It can border on being an introvert. However, on the other side of the scale, we have people who are extrovert. So the thing is to walk the middle path. There are times to be, there's a time to be silent and there's a time to be heard. However, being shy or being introvert can also be a detriment to the individual, just as somebody who's overly extroverted. When we say someone is very shy and they are introverted, let's say they're in a working environment and they don't want to speak up. Let's say the boss or the supervisor can use their shyness or their introvertedness to the boss's or the supervisor's advantage, but to the individual's disadvantage. Now, that individual needs to grow into a being who's no longer shy, but is confident in themselves. Now, that is a process what we refer to as self-realization. And it's all a process of experience in life. So shyness can work. Being an introvert can be a detriment just as much as an individual who is overly extrovert. I hope that makes sense, Amal.
Yes, yes, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a matter of we are here to experience, and we experience. Everyone's here to experience, bar no one, and we're here to learn, and we learn from our experiences, and by learning by way of our experiences, we begin to grow, we begin to elevate, and Wu-Sabat is that ingredient that will help us to make those 1 degree incremental shift. When we say 1 degree incremental shift of consciousness, with each shift of consciousness, we call them DNA explosions. Those DNA explosions that we encounter, our body is vibrating at a high level. We keep making those incremental DNA explosions or incremental 1 degree shifts, our body is vibrating on a higher and a higher and higher and higher levels. And we begin to pull in more of those etheric forces that is coming, those voluntary and involuntary etheric forces into our being. Okay. So, but that demands being a diligent student and sincere seeker. Okay.
Sorry, Zamal. Jackie on Zoom had her hand up for a while.
You got to Jackie?
Jackie, did you want to go ahead and answer?
Go ahead, Jackie.
Ask your question. Sorry, Jackie, are you still there? Did you still have a question to ask?
What's back to Jackie?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Go ahead, Zamatat.
Yes. I was wondering if you could give me your take on the new Pope, the new Pope being an American, at this time in this Trump administration. And further, my other thinking is that more and more European are removing themselves from the Catholic Church. But in the meantime, you have more and more Africans who are embracing the Catholic Church. If you can give me your feedback. Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Jackie. Unfortunately, I can't really give you a feedback on the Pope. It's not something that really I've actually given any attention to. But since more and more, you said that more and more people are gravitating towards Catholicism, what's happening is, what I can say is this: because we're in this new day, time, and cycle, this sun cycle, the forces that propagate religion, or say the religion of Abrahamism, Mosesism, Jesusism, and Mohammedism, the forces that propagate those religions is dissipating. It is losing its power within the atmosphere. The 9 etheric forces is gaining strength moment by moment as we speak. I didn't say second by second, I said moment by moment, because a moment precedes a second. The mere fact that we are having these Wu-Sabat classes all over the world is having an effect on the atmosphere and the molecules within the atmosphere and those subatomic molecules within the atmosphere. And as we're breathing in these molecules of 9 etheric state, it is affecting the minds and hearts of the people, whether they know it or not. But that's what I can say about religion. Okay. Probably they would have another brother here and the chat has got a question. Go ahead, Simon.
The question is about time. You talked about time going to past in affecting the past as well as the present and the future. In affecting the past, is it in observatory states or just observing what happened in the past, or your actions in the past, you can affect the past? How do you affect the past?
Right, yes. That's a good question. And I had to get my head around that. What is that what happened? Okay, what we're doing today is a result of yesterday. Meaning what we did yesterday affects the present, and what we're doing today is going to affect the future or tomorrow. What happened yesterday, what we did yesterday affects what we're doing right now, and what we're doing right now will affect tomorrow. Now, knowing that principle, that if we change the pattern of what we did yesterday, we are changing what we're going to do tomorrow. So we are in actuality creating a new past, and we are creating a new future. So the question to ask then, does that mean then that we can change the Second World War that happened, right?
How do you go?
Okay.
Go back. First question should have been, how do you go back to the past? And but you have to be in the past, so the past will now become present before you cannot change the present. How do you go back to the past to change the past?
Yeah, right. How we do that is by way of our thoughts. What do you mean by that? You could think of something that you did yesterday or years ago. The mere fact that you are thinking about that, what you did yesterday, for example, you can alter aspects of that past by your mere thought pattern. You can't change the whole entirety, but you can change little things that by the mere thought pattern, you can change that thought pattern and create a new past whilst you're still here in the present. And by creating a new past, what you did by recreating a new past here in the present, based upon what you're doing right now, you're creating a new future. So the trick and the trap is that the past has happened, and that's it. It's no longer in existence. The future is a blank easel. So when tomorrow comes, hey, but when we say tomorrow, or when we say the future, we're not talking about in 24 hours time. We're talking about like, let's say like in 5 minutes. What do you mean by that? We have the ability to, let's say you want to create a parking space. I mentioned this last time. You want a parking space in a particular area. And you could create that parking space that you want in that spot or within that vicinity. You can do that just by way of your thought patterns. So you could create a future to your advantage, let's say in about 5 minutes. It's a concept that you need that needs meditating upon. There is a thing called, we have in our brain a network of fibers called, I don't know if you heard this word, called the reticular activating system in your brain. And the reticular activating system is such that we can create, there are things that are happening around us, but we are unaware of it. And we said last time is, for example, let's say you want to buy a red car, let's say a VW, a red VW, a particular model of red VW. Because you had that in your mind, all of a sudden, VW starts to appear, the car that you want, the color that you want, starts to appear everywhere. What it is that now you're shifting your that reticular activating system or RAS system in the brain has now brought those things to your attention. You start seeing these red cars left, right, and center. Before that, they weren't there. Or they were there, but you just wasn't aware of it, or you wasn't conscious of it. So by a mere shift in your consciousness, you can create scenarios. That's what it is. But that in itself is a concept in itself. I hope that helped.
Meaning in some way, you only go in time past, go back in time past in your thoughts.
That's right.
Is that the only way of going back?
Yeah, what it is
You're
that
the method of going back.
what it is that creation is first mental, then it becomes physical. Not physical, then mental. It's mental first, then physical. So things are created in your mind first. Let's say the black print is there, and then the physical manifests. So wherever the mind goes, the body will follow. What it is that the master that we just don't have the key. We don't have the master key to transport ourselves to the past. Once we get that key, you can transport yourself back to the past. The master did say many years ago that somebody asked him a question about, are there anybody who you train to have them powers that you got? And he said that there's some sisters who he trained and they're able to go back to the past. And he said that's like during the time of Moses and them people, and be there obviously within their mind's eye, as if to see, as like right now we're in the class. They're able to go, that's what he said in the audio tape. Okay. So they were able to go there and experience those scenes as if it was happening right now. The thing is that when we go back to the past now, you transport your mind to the past, it's happening right now. And you're experiencing them things. The more of your senses that you utilize whilst thinking about the past, the more real it becomes to you. You see? So thought is a wave, and thought is also a particle, meaning thoughts are photons or light, and it's also material, and they can interchange. Well, you can make those thought waves physical, or you can make those physical thought waves again. So it's interchangeable, and they call that's the term they use, it's called wave particle duality. Okay, that's the scientific terminology of it. But that is a concept that takes time to get your head around. And the reason for that is because of how we've been taught that these are information that is being kept hidden from us deliberately. The reason for that is because once the mass majority of people get these concepts in their heads, those who are in or seems to be in power, they will lose their power or lose their control over the people. And by losing their control over the people, they no longer have dominion over the people. We no longer become their subjects.
Talking about the thought, it says that when the wave particle experiment, when
Yes.
it's being observed,
Yeah,
it changes its form.
that's right.
So does it mean when the thought is being observed, it's going to change form too?
Yes, you're 100% right. Now, it's the master said, when let me try and find that scroll that the master explains that, right? I'm trying to find it for you. Let's find it. Right, the prism. Baba says, can our thought forms also change? Particles. Okay, this is come from the prism, page 3. And let's start. Right. Okay. Hear this now. To answer the brother's question. There's a part of that called the prism. Oh, God, here, you come back a bit. Read the part of the prism. Yeah. Okay, we start from page 3 and we read from page 20, verse 26, and it reads. And being energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only be transformed. Okay, 26. And being energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only be transformed from one state to another. 27. And thoughts also are triggered by emotions or energy in motion. So since thoughts are energy, and just how energy can be transformed, our thought waves can also be transformed, or our thought waves can also be changed, okay, from one state to another, meaning from the non-physical to the physical, or from a wave to a particle. That's our thoughts, okay, it says here. And thoughts are also triggered by emotions or energy in motion, 28. So in fact, all energy ever used, which includes thoughts and emotional energy, exist eternally. 30, no, 29. In quantum facts, matter is a form of energy. Atoms aren't material substance in all. 30. Atoms, are merely small packets, orbs of energy. I think we go back to 29. In quantum facts, matter is a form of energy. Atoms aren't material substance in all. I think that should be at all. 30. Atoms, are merely small packets, orbs of energy. 31. Even when an electron is described as a particle, when its wave function has collapsed, it remains a form of energy. What he's saying here, I'll read that again. 31. Even when an electron is described as a particle, when its wave function has collapsed, it remains a form of energy. When they start to observe an electron, it goes, upon observation, the electron behaves like a wave, and the wave would also collapse, and when upon observation, the wave will go back to an electron. Okay, that's what it's saying here. And these are energy. 32. This energy, of which everything is composed, is in the form of waves that can be encoded with information from information, just as cells. So our thought forms by mere thinking of our thoughts, and saying we just read that thoughts are energy, and within the energy or within thoughts we can extract out formation into information. There's right knowledge, or there's right knowledge, or we can receive, hear this, not instruction, outstruction, by the mere thinking. Hear that?
Outstruction.
Yeah,
Not
instruction,
instruction.
outstruction. So you heard the question, Mama? I answered your question already, but you went out of the room. So come back next time if you hear it. You hear that? So you said about the thought altar. I'll read that again. I'll read this again for the brother because he went out of the room just now. Come back. And being energy, going back from the prism. Yeah, page 3, number 26. And being energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only be transformed from one state to another. It can change. Energy can change from one state to another. 27. And thoughts also are triggered by emotions or energy in motion. 28. And so, in fact, all energy ever used, which includes thoughts and emotional energy, exists eternally. And since energy can be transformed or changed, your thoughts can also be transformed or changed. Get that? Okay. And we said, okay, so thoughts are energy. Even, we went on, it says here, 31, even when an electron is described as a particle, when its wave function has collapsed, it remains a form of energy. And then we talk about the, what do you call it? The wave particle duality. Okay. So we said just now is that an electron upon observation, it goes into a wave, and a wave upon observation would transform into an electron. So they call it wave particle duality. Okay. This energy, 32, this energy of which everything is composed is in the form of waves that can be encoded with information from outformation, just as cells. So our mere thought, the mere thinking, let's for example say you're doing a chant. Even though you're speaking, you're chanting, you're sending out those tones, frequencies, and vibrations within the atmosphere. Remember, when we are speaking, we are emitting sound waves. Sound waves are a slower form of light waves, correct? But these sounds are energy, and they are interpenetrating the atmosphere and interdimensionally. And the higher beings are receiving that at a moment, at an instant. And the outformation is coming back to you at an instant as information. So you could be here teaching class, and you may not be chanting, but you're thinking about the answer to your question. And by the time you finish speaking, the teacher has the answer. That's what it says here, isn't it?
Interesting.
You get that?
It's like, you want to ask a question.
Speak to Mike. Get the mic up so everyone can hear you.
It's like sometimes, subconscious, you want to ask a question from your teacher or professor, whatever, the matter. And what you're saying now that even sometimes because of the power of thought, before you even ask that question, the person has answered the question you want to ask. That's what you're saying.
100%.
Yeah.
What brother said, for those who never heard it, let's say in your mind, and 100% right, in your mind you got a question. The teacher now knows that you got that question and answers your question before you ask it. Hear this. The master teacher says this. I'll give you the opportunity to ask the question. That's what he said. I'll give you the opportunity to ask the question.
So it takes a level of development of the the mind, the high
That's
development.
that's right.
And so if there are a lot of people in an environment that the minds are high developed like that, it's a great advantage to, can be a great advantage to, I don't know, if the more people are developed high,
Yeah.
it's an advantage to us, isn't it? That's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. 100% right. Now, with that being said, you've got a thought in your mind, and the teacher can intercept your thoughts, knowing that you got a question, and answer the question. I mean, the teacher can also answer your question telepathically, and you receive it, the answer. Works for follow that? So not just linear. I'm giving you different degrees, so that okay then. The development, what we mean development, there are many ways to develop those processes or those attributes. One such development is to do a lot of chanting. When you do a lot of chanting, what is happening is you are building up a reservoir of energy. It's like your phone is at, let's say, 6%, right? Because that we've been told. Not at 99.9%, it's at 6%. But by doing a lot of chanting, by doing a lot of chanting, our body is a transceiver, meaning we're able to receive and transmit information. But because we are chanting and it's energy, we are building up a storage of energy within our beings, within every cell of our body. We are storing energy within every cell. And there comes a point, a tipping point, whereby you don't need to chant orally. You chant mentally, and you're still receiving the same qualities.
That was the same in the Holy Tablet in Crete dimension. Some beings wanted to send telepathic communication to some other people, but they didn't want to because they know the thought will be captured.
Say that again, brother.
There's a saying in the Holy Tablet in Crete. Some beings wanted to send information to other people, but they didn't because they know telepathically their enemies, so to speak, are going to get the information. So is that a way of protecting your thoughts from being intercepted or being seen, or probably technology is done in technology in Crete? You can have a card. You can even see similar thing being done in Crete. So they just bring a device close to that and you just duplicate the card, duplicate everything there. Even in technologies, even in phones, they do that. So is there a way to protect your thoughts against being pirated?
Right, yes. There is a way. I remember we said earlier on that there are guardians who guard the mental plane. So not everything that is sent out telepathically from one individual to the next can be intercepted. The reason for that is because unless they are on, you have a thought in your mind. Unless another individual or individuals are on the same frequency as your thought waves, they cannot intercept it. But just in case they may try to intercept it, you can create a force field around you. Or you're listening to a radio and you're not tuned in to 99.99 VHF. You may be tuned into 98 or 99.1, but you're not tuned into 99.9. And that 0.9 makes a difference. Not everyone can intercept those thought patterns because of the high vibrational frequencies that are on. See? But I know what you're talking about in the Holy Tablets. You're talking about Nibiru. Was it talking about Nibiru, and they wanted to send
Kind of message to
telepathically.
another planet or something like that.
Yeah,
They go fighting.
yeah. That's it. No, you're 100% right. When Nibiru is Marty mentioned how when Nibiru was coming into this Earth's atmosphere, and what did he say? They accidentally, one of the four winds accidentally, is it Nibiru, crashed into the planet
Well,
Tiamat, and I'm trying to recreate the story in my mind's eye. Crashed into the planet, and the Meldekians, the scientists, were on the surface of the planet, and the majority of them died, and the warrior class were into the waters, and they thought it was a direct attack to Nibiru, and they sent out fighter crafts. But the beings on Nibiru didn't want to communicate with him telepathically in case those messages would have been intercepted by other disagreeable beings. I remember that. Is that correct? Right, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Roll back, fam. Few brothers just come in. Okay, so let's continue with this now. 32. This energy of which everything is composed is in the form of waves that can be encoded with information from information just as cells. 33. These waves, this is reference to thought waves as well. The thought waves, as in reference to thought waves, have an infinite capacity for receiving information as black and information as white is limited to this realm. The orbits of their birth at 6 months in the womb departs at physical death of white people or Caucasoids as little white orb or flame. So let me just jump to, again, still on the prism, Patarak. Jump to verse 53. Okay, let me start on 32. 52, it reads this. Let's read this. Oh, let me read this again. Let me read this one here. Sorry, I won't go back. I'm just reading this. Let me go back to this is Psalm 39. This is a really cool part I like to read on this subject here. Because all what Papa Yanan is talking about here in this part is actually quantum mechanics. And it reads, I'll start on 39. So I want to read 39. This is page 4. Reads, a huge reservoir of mental, a huge 39, a huge reservoir of mental to physical energy. 40. So like subatomic particles influence all other particles instantaneously over time and space. Time and space also really is also part of the trick as well, time and space. And that's another misnomer as well. All time and space, really everything is all interconnected. Okay. 41. So like all colors, violet is a wave, and waves can alter other waves through resonance. Things resonate together in terms of sound. Okay. And color, oh, it says it here. 42. Violet is composed of 9 levels of colors from non-purple to autumn blue. 43. So we have light and sound. 44. Light has been made clear now. Look at sound. 45. Light is protons and sound is phonons. And we also have photons as well. hold on, but this is phonon sound. 46, and it's about and have it's about sound a direct influence on matter and cells, even on the DNA. So by our mere chanting now, just by chanting, we can alter even our DNA. We can alter matter, we can alter cells, we can even alter our DNA. What do you mean by alter our DNA? Have influence or strengthen our DNA processes. Okay. And you know, within our DNA, we have the chromosomes, correct? So we can enhance chromosomes such as the HAR1 gene, and we could enhance the other ones, the species, the fork head FOXP2 protein gene. We can enhance those chromosomes. Let me jump to 52. Learn to speak Nwapui in your own tones and words. 53. It's based on optical manifestation of sonic energy and blocks out all interferences of demonic tones. So basically, us learning Nwapui, us learning Mispatia or Sabaic, it's like we created a force field. 54. It's about vocalization and visualization, which equals manifestation. So, by way of chanting, or just by way of speaking our own languages, and by way of visualization, we can materialize things. 55. So, sound is carried as waves of consciousness or awareness. 56. Unlike white light or that which fractures or breaks. 57. When sound waves enter the ear, they are converted to electrical impulses in the brain. Remember, that's how we got the third eye, but we've got the third ear as well. Remember that. Okay, we have what we call an etheric ear. 58. So, in fact, light and sound play a part in birth of life. 59. So a living parent gets its life that is physical from physical life from its parents. I'm going to stop there. Okay. We got a question on Zoom. Kobe, you want to say something, Zamo?
So Zama,
Well, keep you waiting.
no problem. So you mentioned something earlier about Ptah being a Ray,
Right, yeah.
and you also spoke on outstruction. So I just want to understand: are there more Rays, and who are the Rays that are communicating to us through outstruction? I hope that
Right.
makes sense.
I hear that, yeah. For those who missed it, let's read it again. Okay. I'll find it. I think it's page 114 from the Black Book. Yeah, read that bit again for those who missed it. So we're talking about Huhi, Hika, and Sia. And it's got a page 170 in the Black Book. It's verse 229. The original triad of Ptah, Hika, and Sia. Huhi is one of the creative forces of will that constantly accompanies Ra, the sun deity, the source of life, the sustainer of life, the provider of sustenance in this world, the eternal. So so what Baba Yana is saying here is that Ptah is also a Reye. And he makes that just by saying that these are Hui, Hika, and Sia are the original triad of Ptah, and Hui, Hika, and Sia are also the triad that constantly accompanies Re. And it says, I read 300, goes, listen carefully, it's got here, 300. This highest triad is the triangle with the eye of Re in the center. So you've got a triangle. In the center, you've got Re. And within Re, there's also a triangle with Hui, Hika, and Sia. But that triangle with Re in the center, you have Atum Re, and Amun Re. Okay, it says it here. This highest triad is the triangle with the eye of Re in the center. And the 3 points of the center represents Atum, the undifferentiated one, the creation, the full disk appearance of the sun in the morning, when the sun appears to rise, Atum, the unique one in life, the full disk at the highest point of the day, Amun, the hidden one at death, the sun at its last full disk before setting and making it through the underworld or netherworld. And this sun is called Anundre. Okay. So now I need some more power juice. Now there are many rays, not just one. And ray is an order. And you have feminine deities who are also after the order of Re. But we don't say Re for the feminines, we would say Re Tat. And you know this by way of certain deities have the headdress with the sun disk at their center, along with the horns of a cow or a bull, it used to be a bull. Okay. So they also have feminine rays. We call those rays in the Hag language, Rei Tat. Okay. So was another part to the question, Zamal?
The other travel tack as well. That was a good explanation and breakdown of what I was trying to understand there. But the second part of the question is where you were saying we receive our instruction.
Yeah.
Is that coming from these Reye?
Yeah, it's coming from Rei as in light waves. It's coming from, we receive our instruction by way of light waves. Okay. And that's, you're 100% right. It's really outstruction or outformation in terms of these energy waves as we read earlier on. We're going to go back again to the prism. Receiving outformation at an instant from let's read it again. Here we go. Oh, I can't find the page again. I think it's page 4. Okay. So yeah, this is it. We can receive outstruction or outformation by way of our thoughts, which is telepathically from these higher beings. We can receive outformation or outstruction by way of sound as well. So there are many avenues, not just one, by way of how we can receive outstruction coming to us as instruction. Okay, many ways, many avenues. Here it is. You could be reading the master's books, and just by reading, I've got a thought there, you know, because these what the master has written down is what they refer to as they use the word is hieroglyphs. The word they use is hieroglyph means sacred writings, and this is what this is. So this is coming from, this is information being materialized as information, and as we are reading this, it's having an effect on our thought waves. And anything that affects your thought waves affects your actions or what we do. Okay, and because of it having an effect on our thought waves, we're going even deeper. It has an effect on our DNA. And because it's having an effect on our thought waves, we're having what's referred to as DNA explosions. We are shifting in degrees. We are elevating or transforming with us not even being aware of it. And as you said before, as we are talking, Wu-Sabat, as questions are being asked, we are transforming the atmosphere as we speak. Or we are having what we are, we are also having what's referred to as we are an alignment with each other. And we said scientifically, the term they use is quantum entanglement, where everything is interwoven, okay, regardless of race. I'll give you a little story at work on Bridget. I talked to one guy at work, and we had a conversation. I think he's talking to me about he had a conversation at work, and let's say this is on a Friday, and because on a Monday I saw the brother again, and he said to me that when he went home, it was as though the conversation was still continuing. I said to him, what it is that our etheric counterparts had aligned, and I wasn't aware of it, he was aware of it, obviously. Our etheric counterparts aligned, and the conversation we had was still continuing. It's a couple guy. Our conversation was continuing. And he said that it was just that even though he's at home, it's like we're having a conversation here and now, because it was like that. And I explained that to him because, yeah, that makes sense. So they know what I'm about at work, you know, so I do talk to the brothers at work. Okay. Any questions so far on Clubhouse, Zoom? Okay, right. Take the mic.
There are two questions in
Okay, questions. You take but hang on, one before we go to Zoom, we got to brother. Go ahead,
Greetings, brother. This is. I have two questions. They might be answered in one. You speaking about. Just curious. I know we have different ether beings. So you have 9 ether, 6 ether beings, and some beings where 6 ethers they can still have melanin in them.
That's right.
So how can anyone who has melanin in them find out what ether they are? And saying that as well, how can you find out of what? Yeah, let me leave that question there.
Oh, it's a very good question. This afternoon I was out in Croydon.
Actually, you know what? Let me put a spin.
Okay, right.
Spin to it. It might not make sense in mine, but then does that once you find out what ether being you are, what not, does that also tie into what I'm trying to think of the word that explains without saying too much, but so you have Caucasians, then you have the Asians, which I don't know what word that would be, but the types of Asians, then you have for Negroids, something like. Do you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
what race? Is it only just one race of the Negroids, or is it more others? Because you've got the Patah, and then you've got another set of tribes too. Does it make any sense? So how do you find to get to the root of where your line is and whatnot?
Yeah.
And if there's one question, or I don't know if that question answered in one, or it's just many answers from that one question.
Yeah, good. That's what I was about to say that, right? Good thing. Yeah, it's like this. Today I was walking down Croydon and Christian brother stopped me. I love it when they stop me. So I was talking to the brother. And I got him. I was talking. He knew where I was coming from. He had some information there. I said to him about Pa'ut, the all expanding. How the all expanding is all space, all matter, and all time. And I said to him that we as Nagaranadu, Negroids, we are 9 etheric beings. And we have, let's say, we are like a cup, empty cup, dipped into the ocean of Pa'ut. Pa'ut is all space, all matter, and all time. Pa'ut is 9 ether, 9 to 9th power of 9. Pa'ut is composed of all existing chemicals, gases, formulas, and elements of natural nature. That's what I tell my brother. And as a Nagara Nadu, we are like a cup dipped into the ocean of Pa'ut and filled with all those qualities that's within Pa'ut as 9 etheric beings. We are composed of all existing chemicals, gases, formulas, and elements of natural nature, just like Pa'ut. You have, I said this to the brother, you have Indians now who are melanated, but what makes them different to us is their hair texture. They do not have hair, they have fur, straight and flank. That means then that they are of a lesser composition than 9 ether beings. They would be referred to as, they could be referred to as, anything that's flank hair would be something like 7 ether dropping down. So even though they are melanin, they are of a lesser composition than us, Agaranado. However, so it's our hair texture that makes the differential, that differentiates. We have 9 different hues. And the Caucasian, you said, then you have the Hindus have about 8, then it goes down and down. The Caucasians have 6 different hues. The Orientals have 3 different hues. See? So it's our hair texture that determines our
What is hues?
Color, shades, different shades, 9 different shades. Okay, we have from the blue black to the gold skin complexion Nagaranado Negroids. But due to mixing in, we also have they have 9 ether hair, we have 8 ether hair, we have 7 ether hair. So we have, in terms of hair texture, there's also, we take that in consideration, but we also got to take into consideration our genetic makeup as 9 etheric beings, 8 ether beings, 7 ether, 6 ether, and 5 ether. The 5 ether beings would be your Caucasian males, and the 6 ether would be the feminines, the femi-6, we should say. The reason why we say the femi-6 or the Caucasian females have more than the male, than the Caucasian male, is because she holds the mitochondrial DNA. The feminine, so the Caucasian, the females, femi-6 and femi-9, they hold the power, not the males, you see, on the physical plane. But outside of the physical plane, there's principles masculine and feminine principles. But also within the physical plane, as a physical male and a physical female, the feminines and the masculines hold both principles within inside of us. We have feminine and masculine principles within inside of us to create the balance. We have the right side of our brain is a feminine principle, and the left side of our brain is a masculine principle. But as a genetic makeup now, physical makeup, the feminines, you're for greater composition than us males. Go ahead.
What does principle mean?
Principle. A principle would be like
Because you mentioned more than one, just follow what you're saying.
a principle is like how should I put it in English? Like, it's like not like an outline. It's like an attribute. These are attributes, or these are attribute would be a good word to use. There are attributes that are within the feminines or the masculine. So in terms of principles, it'd be like another word that comes to my mind, it'd be like attributes. Attributes. A lot of these principles or attributes, it's coming from the Egyptian mystery systems. A lot of it's coming from the Egyptian mystery. We call them principles, see, or we call them doctrines, another term that you may hear used as well. But you tend to hear the word principles used a lot, especially when you delve into Egyptian mystery system. Okay. Somebody had a question.
I think you answered what I wanted to ask.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Rabubat Zamal.
Rahubat,
Yeah, we have some questions on Zoom on the chat.
who's that? Jose?
Yes, and one of the questions is mine actually. Can you hear me clearly?
We can hear you clearly, Zamal. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. Let me just go back here because I had to reset. Okay, I have one question, which is related with the genetic kiss on the verse 308 to 310. And the question is, how can one check if there is evil spirits on one's family and as well in other people's families, especially during or before the dating stage?
Okay. Can you read the excerpt for us, please? Zamal, I don't have that scroll with me that you're reading
Yes,
from.
I can read it. Let me just open it real quick. Okay, book scroll, genetic kiss. I'll start from the verse 308. Being overthrown, and that makes it harder mentally and physically for you to liberate yourselves in various ways necessary. 309. Once you exchange bodily fluids with others who may have evil genes as far back as 30 people, you are transformed like a lycan in a lycanthropy. Lycanthrope, meaning to change into a canine wolf. 310. Then you become by nature deceptive and deceitful. That's where the question is coming from this scroll. How can we, as Sabians, find out if we first, the ones, we have evil spirits on our genealogy, on our ancestors, especially the 4th genealogies that we carry with ourselves? And secondly, how can we find that out from our potential partners before we choose? We found out if there's some evil in it, how we can get rid of it, how we can spot it.
Right, that's a good question. Right.
Thank you.
The brother asked the question in simple terms: how can we determine whether or not we got evil spirits within inside of us or disagreeable spirits within inside of us, and how do we discern if a potential partner? Okay, let's start with the potential partner. before we get a partner, really, what we should really be doing is questioning them. Before you get a partner, you better question them, Yeah, you could find out about the history, their genetic history, the mother and father, about them as an individual, how many partners they've been with, you know, you got to find out about them, any ailments within the family. These are things that we got to find out. We got to find it out. Got to find it out. Any craziness in the family, all these things you got to find out the partners. And with your own self, with your own family, if your parents are alive, ask them questions. If grandparents are alive, ask them. Know about the history of your own family lineage or lineage. That also helps as well. Okay. The mere fact that you are in Wu-Sabat means then that you are performing what the master calls a self-exorcism, whether you are aware of it or not. However, when we say perform a self-exorcism, the first step is introspection, looking at ourselves, which is an ongoing process. You see, when the master uses the term self-exorcism, what he is saying is that we have to clean ourselves inside out, outside in. Inside out, our thoughts; outside in, our intake, what we're taking in. Could be physical food, or be it sound waves or things of that nature. We've got to become aware now of our environment, okay, which is an ongoing process, and that's called self-realization. Now, as we take that journey towards self-realization, we are on our way towards what's referred to as self-mastery, having mastery over self. And that demands practice or application. Okay. You heard the saying, knowledge is power, but without application, or it's the application that gives the knowledge its power. Without application, knowledge is just in an inert state. And that goes on for me to say this, that the 9 ether forces, I'm talking about 9 ether forces, the 9 ether forces that's within inside of us is in an inner state, meaning it is inactive. In order for it to be activated, it needs application. Now, the knowledge or the Wu-Sabat, information, translate as information that we are receiving from the master, is there to activate those 9 etheric forces that's within inside of us. That's the purpose. And the more we do, the more we start to live Wu-Sabat, those 9 etheric forces of natural nature become activated. Okay, and you'll find that in the scroll right here, natural ether energy. This particular scroll goes in depth about the activation of those 9 etheric forces. After you read this, you then go to the neuroscience of Wu-Sabat. This one here, that goes into it. See on that Zoom. This goes into it in greater detail as well. Okay. So then you scroll to natural energy and neuroscience of Wu-Sabat. I hope that helped, Zamal.
Yes, Zamal, I'm still lost on how practically I can find that out. I understand when it comes to practicing the culture, how does it help? I just don't have a logical understanding when it comes to face-to-face interaction. What are the things that I can spot on? That's where the question is coming from. Because personally, I have done the homework to check my genealogy on my family side, both sides. and most people that I interact with don't have this knowledge. So what would be a way in order to spot, or maybe by intuition or something, maybe through our gifts, in order to find these things out? That's why I'm asking, because this is a pertinent question, because it's too late to find out after you already engaged there and everything. You find out that, epa, I could have avoided this, and actually you're transmitting through all this other 30 personalities that comes with the partner. You are transmitting that to your generation as well, the next one. So I wanted to find a practical way in order to deal with that and identify it.
Yeah, I hear that. If you have a partner and there's only so far that you can go in terms of investigation, the next stage will be then is just that making that step, or as the master teacher calls it, performing a self-exorcism on yourself, cleaning yourself inside out, outside in, and do those spiritual works such as fasting, such as chanting, watching your diet, things of that nature, looking after yourself, you see. In terms of your own personal family, if there's only you can only take the investigation so far, then these are the processes that you have to go through. Just look at cleaning yourself up, so that you no longer become contaminated. What's happening? What your family has done in the past, something that's out of your control. But what is in your control is your ability to fix yourself up and to fix yourself and don't contaminate your being. You see, okay, you've got a partner and you don't know the history of your partner, and your partner may not have a history, may not have knowledge of the history of their family lineage. All they can do, the same thing you do, is clean yourselves up. Because then you have to, because investigation can only go so far. And I just want to read an excerpt that we read in the beginning of the class. I can find it again. This is what we read in the beginning of this class.
Zamal, so it would be accurate to say that I can use the culture as a filter. Like if my partner, if she joins the culture, then would be conducive to have a relationship.
100%.
And if not, I just step away because I would never know. You see?
Yeah, yeah. That's keep it real, bro. I'll keep it real, because it's like this. You are in Wu-Sabat, and your partner's not in Wu-Sabat. What are you can talk about at the dinner table? You see that program on TV last night, or what are you gonna talk about? Because what are you gonna eat? You used to eat bangers and mash. Now you turn a vegetarian. You want fruit and veg, and you say your partner is still on oxtail and cold foot. What's going on there, bro? You see, so the journey becomes much easier if both of you are resonating on the same frequency. There's always difference. You know what I mean? There's always difference. But the journey is made much easier if both of you are resonating on the same, or reading from the same hymn book.
I hear you, and that I understood that.
Yeah, okay, right.
And for those that are already in a relationship, for example, what is your take on it? They're already married, for example, and they just connected to Wu-Sabat last year, started reading the books, YouTube channel, and how to go about for those that are already in relationship, let's say married even.
Okay. Yeah, again, right, if they're married and the husband or the wife is in Wu-Sabat, are you saying that both of them are in Wu-Sabat? Is that what you're saying?
I say one of them, let's say the male in
Oh,
this case, just joined Wu-Sabat recently,
yeah.
and the Zamaltat, that side, she hasn't joined yet. She's just hearing it. And what is your advice for such situations, for on which one of the spouses? No, yeah, one of those in the couple, one of the
Yeah.
couple,
Right
one of the
ahead.
elements in the couple, they just join
Mm.
Wu-Sabat, and how to go about it in order to balance we're still going back to disagreeable spirits on the lineage. What is the advice you give?
Yeah. The master said this, the master said it like this. It's your example more than anything else that people will be attracted to you. So you could read in the books, doing this, doing that, but your partner is looking on. She may not be looking directly, but for the side of her, she's looking on this, she's looking for, you see any changes, the master did like this, yeah, it's your example more than anything else that people will gravitate to, okay, more than what you say, you see. But the thing is to work with it. If you find that if in a relationship, if in a relationship, one or other the partner doesn't what you want to know, there's problems. That's keeping it real. Many people, excuse me, many people is coming to Wu-Sabat and they're into Wu-Sabat, but their partner isn't. Sooner or later, let's say you got the husband is in Wu-Sabat, the wife's not in Wu-Sabat. It's either the husband will leave or the partner comes into, more than likely, the husband will leave Wu-Sabat. That's what I've observed over the years. The husband leaves Wu-Sabat and goes back into the world. So the answer to that question, Samal, as the master teacher puts it, it's your example more than anything else. And women are very intuitive. More, very, very intuitive. You don't give them the credit that is due to them. They know whether you're faking the funk. Yeah, in front of the brothers, or in front of the Zamals, yeah, you're down. But when behind closed doors, you turn into a lichen. You shapeshift. Okay. And I hope that helps, brother.
Ramal,
Go ahead.
just to let you know, in the Gospel of Yonul, it's in there where it says, I can't remember, in the 200, somewhere in the 200 verse 200 to like maybe 46, it says, the master teacher says that we should choose a mate in Wu-Sabat. Literally, it just says it. But I can't remember exactly what verse that's in, but it's in the Gospel of Yonul.
Yeah, Tawatat. What the brother was saying though is say that what brothers mentioned, correct me if I'm wrong, Zamal. What the brother's saying is that let's say you've got a husband and wife team, or you've got two partners of a partner, and let's say you've got a brother and or a sister, or the husband or the wife, they come across Wu-Sabat, and the other one is not really in Wu-Sabat. What should they do? And I just said to him that is your example more than anything else that will that your partner gravitate to. Ideally, if both of you are in Wu-Sabat, it makes the journey that much more easier. Okay. And you may meet a Christian sister. You're walking down the road, you may meet a Christian sister. And something connects. And you're walking down the road, you may meet a Christian brother. And you're in Wu-Sabat. And something connects. And you're in dialogue. And the Christian is something that you're saying to activate somebody, that brother and or sister. Yeah, I like to hear that, where do you hold your classes? And, you see? So just because a person is a Christian, Muslim, and or Jew or Rasta or the Nation of Islam, whatever, doesn't mean that the shutters are down, they're doomed because of ... They could, that person could be a good Christian, good Muslim, a good Rasta, etc., etc., etc. You know what I mean? It's only that now is their time for Wu-Sabat to be presented to them. And you who are a sister or a brother, you just happen to be walking down the street, or this, you're talking to somebody, and something, there's a connection there. But you follow? So, ideally, you want a partner who is in Wu-Sabat. But what happens if there's no one in Wu-Sabat that grabs your attention? What do you do then? Wait till somebody comes in. You know what I mean? Or you know what I mean? And let's say the person who comes in, they're a Christian or whatever, or Muslim, or you see. So all's not lost, is it? So. Some Stephen said, I hear that was a Asian accent. I had to drop that in, I had to drop that one in, So my brother picked it up quite quick here, brother. Give some flying fish. Right. Hey, we seem to have gone off the topic of the class, didn't it? You know what I mean? Why did Baba Yananan mention that the next level to divinity is that of an existing quantum being? I just want to... Okay, let me just read the mind scroll. Now, as far as I know, this is the first scroll that the master teacher actually mentions quantum physics. This is the... Now if you're able to see that, it's the brown, it's gone back years now, this brown hardback cover of the mind scroll. I'm going to read something here. I just want to read something here from the chat room in got here. Sokai writes here. I've read something from the chat room for those on the Zoom. It reads, Sokai wrote that because in the spirit, time rotates counterclockwise while the physical rotates clockwise. Time only exists in the physical realm. In the hue of spirit, time doesn't exist, but the rotation is counterclockwise. All Goma, Colis, as all is now, right? Sokai writes, using 0 to 9 and quantum mechanics, you can see your creation to your birth. Yeah, that is in order to see your creation to your birth, that is something that the master teacher would have to give us instruction on that. The lack of consciousness is what made us descend into man. Now what happened is that we are fully conscious when a child is born, remember we have inception, we have conception, and we have reception. When a child is born, they are all their energy centers is in full activation. It wasn't due to a lack of consciousness that made us descend into man. It was our will that we willed ourselves to come into this physical plane. We wanted to become physical, but we came as light. And when we came here into the physical, we didn't have, I don't want to say we didn't have memory. We had memory, but it was dormant. The memory is like this. Two parents can have the thought in their mind that they want a child to have certain attributes. So in order to have these particular attributes, they would say, I want this child to be born in a certain house of, you say, the Dindera or the zodiac. The reason why we want to have this child born in this particular house, the zodiac, is because we want them to have a certain characteristics for a job to be fulfilled. And if the parents are developed spiritually, mentally, and physically developed, they can communicate to the child in the etheric realms. Because remember, there is consciousness or awareness in the etheric realms. And at that, so they would calculate that at this moment, we want to have a child that would conceive at this moment. Child gets born 9 months later on this particular house. And the child can communicate to the parents in those higher realms. And the child is born, the vocal cords may not be fully developed, but they can communicate with that child telepathically. Because mental telepathy was the first form of communication. See? Mentalism. Then, as the child grows, it goes through its own experiences in life. Okay? So we came down here because we wanted to come down here. The abundance of awareness while in the body will help raise your consciousness, which prepare you to go back to the Hu spirit source. Right, 100% right. The more conscious we become, the more aware we become, we could access those higher planes while still in the physical. You don't have to experience death to experience those higher realms. That's why the master's here, and only the elite will be given those privileges. Okay, the elite amongst them will be given those privileges. Okay, to access those higher planes, obviously you need the barotheric gland, and the master said you could turn yourself inside out, transform into a light being or Ethereum, dematerialize and go into those planes, or you could, as you talked about earlier on, you could still be in the physical, having a class, like the master teacher will be taking a class right now, and a portion of him is on planet Risk, or is in Cyrus or Orion. or having a galactical meeting. So, and he's conscious of being here and now and there and now as an omnipotent being, as you said earlier on. They call that superposition in quantum physics. Okay. Zero is the quantum field, which 9 powers in the field. 1 to 8 are the particles that exist in this field. I don't know what it means. 0 is the quantum field, which 9 powers the field. 1 to 8 are the particles that exist in this field. That one kind of lost me. I don't know what brother. Oh, I don't know what Sol Kai means by that. So they can't really elaborate on that one. We have did I oh, somebody wants that question. Terry Jamal Tohuti, is that correct? Want to have questions, Jamal?
Yes, Zama, I think I have had my question in the chat for some time.
Go ahead.
The question is, would quantum existing being be a representation of our higher self that has mastered the laws of time, matter, light, and energy?
Say that again.
That's the first part.
Oh, say that part again, please, Jamal.
Could quantum existing being be a representation of our higher self that has mastered the laws of time, matter, light, and energy?
All right. That's correct. But what it is that our physical consciousness needs to be developed to that state whereby we now have mastery over those states of existences, where that ties into what's referred to as the doctrine of cause and effect. You have, from every cause there is an effect, and the effect is a result of a cause. But there are what's called precursors to the cause. That means there's a precursor to the cause that creates a cause to produce a desired effect or a desired result. However, there are laws that govern even those realms. Let me just read that. That's coming from the sacred wisdom of Tahuti. Let's find that out. Okay, this is comes from Sacred Wisdom of Tahuti. Those of you who've got this scroll, this is one of those scrolls that does require, as you're reading, to burn some incense when you're reading this particular scroll. Okay, to burn some incense, some sage, drink some water, meditate and pray, and the master taught us how to read, get some water there, whatever. Anyway, this is yeah, this particular scroll. Let me give a quick history of this scroll, because this is the Sacred Wisdom of Tahuti. The teachings is called the Ha teaching of Tahuti. Particular scroll, you know. And what the Greeks did when they came into Tamaray, into Egypt, they sat at the feet of these venerable black masters and were given 3 degrees of the 9. They were given the wisdom of Tahuti, and they morphed a character called Hermes Trismegistus from Tahuti. And he's teaching, they call it the Hermetic principles. 7, we've got 9. The book is called the Kabbalion. You can get it on PDF. It's a good read. And what it is really is that a lot of secret societies, they read these doctrines, read these principles, and they use the principles, they reverse the polarity of the principles to hypnotize the masses. You know what I mean? But once you start reading the sacred wisdom, or if you can access if you can't get this scroll, if you can read the Kabbalion, the Hermetic principles, the veil starts to get lifted. And you can see now the reason why we no longer be under hypnosis. The spell of sleep weakens. The power of the spell of sleep starts to weaken. And what happens is that, and that's their greatest fear, their greatest nightmare, those principalities in higher places, their greatest nightmare is us waking up. Not just us in the garden now, but people on the planet Earth waking up. Let's take us as Negroids. Their greatest nightmare is us waking up. Right, it's more juice. Excuse me. Their greatest nightmare is us waking up. So just in case you decide to wake up or wake your people up, you can make sure it becomes your greatest nightmare. You know what I mean? See how they switch it? But it doesn't matter because you're going to wake up regardless. Anyway, so going to the doctrine of cause and effect, because of the brother's question. This principle, this is page 76, Sacred Wisdom. This principle, oh, let me start reading this bit here. There's also a little note here. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. Or the reason why things happen is just by chance, or no, that's called, we use that term the last class, called synchronicity, alignment. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. And law is existence. There are laws to existence. All things happen in the all. All is affected by things in the all. This principle embodies the fact that there is a cause for every effect, and effect from every cause. Explains that everything happens according to law, that nothing ever merely happens. There is no such thing as chance or luck. He said synchronicity or alignment. Okay. That while there are various planes of cause and effect, the higher dominating the lower, still nothing ever entirely escapes the laws. The laws upon laws. The Egyptians, Egypt with I, understand the art and methods of rising above the ordinary plane of cause and effect to a certain degree, and by mentally rising to a higher plane, they become causes with effects happening within itself. They're the ones who create the cause to create an effect. The masses of people are carried along, obedient to the environment, the wills and desires of others stronger than themselves. I'm going to stop there. The masses of people are carried along obedient to the environment, the wills and desires of others stronger than themselves. Based upon the law of the, or basically, you know, like you got the law of the country, or they got people who say they create this artificial construct that we live in. And they're not saying it directly, but indirectly, they are programming the masses. And the masses are following like sheeple to the slaughter. Once you start to recognize that, and you start to rise up mentally and become and say, you know what, I do not have to follow the masses. I can create my own cause and effect as a causer. You begin to wake up. Because on here, I'll read that bit again. The masses of people are carried along obedient to the environment, the wills and desires of others stronger than themselves. Hereditary, suggestion, and other outward causes moving them about like fish on the hook of life. But the masters, rising to the place above, dominate their moods, characters, qualities, and powers, as well as the environment surrounding them, and become fishers of men instead of fish. They now having what's referred to as self-realization and self-mastery over not only themselves, but their environment. And because of that, they are having an influence or an effect on other people in a positive direction. Okay? They help to play the game of life instead of being played, and move about by others' wills and environment. But they absorb X amount of knowledge of Wu-Sabat, they're living, they've elevated themselves to the degree, but by their mere words and their actions, they are having an effect on other people by what they do. They use the principle instead of being its tools. The masters obey the causation of the higher planes, but they help to rule on their own plane. And this say this physical plane. So there are laws, and there are laws, for lack of a better word, on higher and higher laws, different planes of causation that we read. Okay, but they obey the laws, the higher planes. In this statement, there's a condensed wealth of Egyptian knowledge. So what you're reading here is attributes of a deity. And the master says that there are 9 gates of reality and 9 gates of irreality. And the 9th gate of reality is the 9th gate of godhood. Once you hit the 9th gate, you know, a true God is one who takes responsibility. They respond, they put on the mask of God and become responsible for their environment. They become, that is what a true animist is. They acknowledge the spirit of all living things of natural nature. Okay. Somebody who asked the question. I hope that helped in answer, Zamel. Can't remember who asked the question. Any more questions on Zoom or Clubhouse or in the room? No questions. Everybody shy? Go ahead.
I'm just taking in what you said about when you're seeing someone, if it be old or new, clean yourself be an example as the best example to be a Wu-Sabat. Now, in that process, what I wanted to ask a question about dreams or sleeping or having problems and just having a good night's sleep. I'm assuming from, fasting and, taking the process to clean stuff inside out and outside in. But is there any things you recommend in the now? So, for example, putting salt underneath the pillow or something. That's. Oh, I know. I'm giving an example.
Yeah.
Or something to help in the now. Because, say, for example, there's family members who don't like what you're doing, or partners, ex-partners, families don't like what you're doing, and they decide to destroy your work or whatever, and it now has an effect on when you're sleeping. So my question is, what someone can do now to affect those who may be doing something that they do not know what's happening behind closed doors?
Right,
So, and I just gave an example about salt. Could it be about making chanting and praying as well? What would it be? What is something we can put into practice even from today?
Okay.
I don't know if it's a question you answer straight away or not, but it's trying to be a direct question to take away to put into practice.
Right, yeah. One thing to do, what the master does recommend, is to clean the environment that you're in, and just recommend using sage. Okay. Burn a little bit of sage to clean the environment. When the sage now is like, you say you've got a whiteboard and a lot of writing on there. The sage it's like cleaning the whiteboard. So it's clean now. Now you start to imprint what you want on that whiteboard. Now, chanting and doing the spiritual work, etc., you now can. These are things that you put on your whiteboard. Your whiteboard is say like your house or whatever, or your room, whatever. But that, for me, I would recommend that. If you know any chant, that also help as well. The reason why I know you said earlier on, you're talking about chanting and how just when we're chanting, as one who chants a lot, I do recommend doing a lot of chanting because it has an effect on your environment. You can change the molecular structure of your environment just by chanting, and also change the molecular structure of yourself. Another example would be to, let's say, before you go to bed, get a glass of water and drink, say, half a glass of water. Obviously, you're gonna cover it, you know what I mean? Go to sleep, wake up the next morning. As you're drinking that water, impregnate the water as you're drinking it with thoughts, whatever thoughts, not disagreeable, positive thoughts. So drink half a glass, wake up the next morning and finish the glass, same thoughts, etc., etc. Now, the reason why we say water is because water is like a conduit between the physical realm and the spiritual realm. Yeah? It's pathway between a bridge, yeah, a bridge between the physical realm and the non-physical realm. What we mean by that is water in its liquid form, upon heat, becomes a gas, and upon with a decrease in temperature becomes a solid. But in a liquid state, it can transcend both realms. It can transcend into the physical and non-physical realm, spiritual realm. Not only that, water holds memory, meaning that you can receive information by drinking water and by your mere thoughts, meaning that you can program the water that you're drinking, and as you're drinking the water, receive information of what to do. You see? So do that. Another good example, I said this before, is if you have a bath and you have a child, let's say you got one child who's oh, just oh. When you have a bath, dip your ears, submerge your ears under the water and start chanting the Om.
How long?
As long as you like. Perhaps until the water get cold enough, as long as you like, you know. But again, though, the water is it's a conduit. And it's in a when you submerge your ears under the water, you're hearing a different resonance than if you tip your head away, bring your head above the water. If you try to tip your head and tip your ears underneath the water, you hear different resonance. It's more it's enhanced when your ears are beneath the water. And you could program you can receive information that way as well. You see, or you could just receive information just by having a bath and thinking about it, because your thoughts are also energy as well. Thought waves are also energy, and within the energy, as you read earlier on, there's information waiting for us to be absorbed, waiting for us to absorb those information. As energy, or the master says, energy, emotion, or emotional energy. Okay, so there are many different practices. There are many practices you can utilize. You see, and what you're doing here is you're building up what's referred to as a psychic self-defense. Okay, the master teacher said it like this: the devil can only walk through your house if you let him in. So I haven't watched the film Sinners, but that's what that movie is about. I mean, I know they know about this stuff as well. So the devil can only enter your front door if you let him in. You see. So create that force field by small little things. Okay. The more powerful one is your thoughts. Thoughts are very powerful, because thought is what brings things into manifestation. I mean, first is your thoughts, then the action. You see. So something to work on. Okay. I'll be
Someone
able
up to you.
oh, one more brother question before do we have to go? Go ahead.
Yeah, back to the hair. We talked about hair previously. That 9 ether beings, their hair is different, right?
That's right.
Sounds straight. What about people adding hair of 6 ether beings, adding into their hair? What are the consequences? Or some men, it happens to both men and women, some people have other hair in addition to their hair. And also with Solomon Samson, yes, Samson. He has long hair.
Yeah.
What's the energy behind long hair? Like the one hair too. What's the essence behind it?
All right. Yeah.
So I'm asking hair. Let me do like a thesis about hair. Anything about hair? What is
Okay. Quick answer this last question before we
energy behind it?
Yeah, good question. Yeah. Our hair is like antennas. And when brothers or sisters, when they straighten their hair, the master said it like this. They're saying that it's how you put it. God made a mistake. That's how my teacher put it. God made a mistake. My hair shouldn't be like this. It should be straight and flank. But straight and flank lacks power. Okay. Now, that's it in a nutshell. Now, and because of that, right, they are reducing themselves from a 9 etheric being to a Caucasian in black skin without them even realizing it. That's what they're doing. God made a mistake. My hair shouldn't be like this. My hair should be flank. All got lost though. Now, think about the midge down at the back.
Yeah.
The midge down now is the midge down is a representation of a person who follows the culture of Wu-Sabat. It's an acknowledgement to the Ethereans as well as other people that this is part of our culture. Now, the thing is, I told myself, when I went to the barber, he kept on cutting off. So I told the barber, because he wasn't cutting properly, I told him to chop it all off. Even though he chopped it off, it felt as though it was still there. So I said, you know what? That's a sign that I could grow it back again. So I grew it back again. You know what I mean? So there is a spiritual significance to this, to the Mijdal. The Mijdal ties in for the male, ties into the mandula oblongata. The medulla oblongata is that part of the brainstem that connects to the spinal cord. Okay, which a lot of information travels down the medulla oblongata. And so there's a lot of there is scientific knowledge behind the Mijdal. The feminines who have a Mijdal either on the right or left side or both sides is representation of the mitochondrial DNA. Okay, again, it signifies their culture. Everything in Wu-Sabat is cultural orientation. Last one, brother, because
like the Jews, they call it pios.
yeah,
They leave a string of hair here. That's the same thing, or
yeah, that they would have stole that, plagiarized that from the source, but they do everything else because they think that they're chosen ones. But hey, as the man think himself, the chosen ones, yeah, chosen for the reptilians when they come for them at the dinner table. You know what I mean? Oh. Fam, Moisar is the say farewell until next time.
Hey.
We'd like to say thank you for all for coming to class here today. Remember, it's you all that make the class. I'm thankful for taking the time out. It gives us a lot of pleasure in presenting Wu-Sabat. As the master teacher says, what we teach is what we need to learn for ourselves. So those of you on Clubhouse and Zoom, here physical in Nashat, until the next time, Akhros, give and take care. Wadu.
Wadu.
What
Wadu
Shukran.
Zaman.
Wadu.
Wadu Zaman.